Attraction is often misunderstood as something that can be manufactured through clever strategies, rehearsed lines, or calculated behavior. Many people grow up absorbing messages from media or peers suggesting that if you say the right thing or act a certain way, you can make someone feel desire on command. In reality, attraction is far more complex and deeply human. It is an emotional and psychological response that develops naturally when two people sense compatibility, safety, and genuine interest. When someone tries to force attraction, it usually creates pressure, and pressure tends to push people away rather than draw them closer. Authenticity is at the center of real attraction. When you present yourself honestly, your interests, values, humor, and personality, you give the other person something real to respond to. Pretending to be someone you're not might create short term attention, but it cannot sustain meaningful desire. People are surprisingly perceptive. They can sense when behavior is performative or driven by a need for approval. Authenticity, on the other hand, signals confidence and emotional stability. It communicates that you are comfortable in your own skin, which is a trait many people find naturally appealing. Trying to force attraction often comes from a fear of rejection. Rejection can feel personal, and it's tempting to believe that if you just try harder, you can change someone's mind. But attraction is not a debate to be won or a puzzle to be solved. It is a mutual experience. When you chase validation too intensely, your focus shifts away from connection and toward control. This can create anxiety in both people. You may feel pressured to perform, and the other person may feel pressured to respond in a certain way. Healthy attraction grows best in an environment free from that tension. Another important aspect of authenticity is self acceptance. When you accept your strengths and imperfections, you stop trying to edit yourself to fit what you think someone else wants. This doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. Personal development is always valuable, but growth driven by self respect is very different from change driven by fear of being unlikable. People are drawn to those who have a stable sense of identity. When you know who you are and what you value, your interactions become more relaxed and genuine, making it easier for attraction to develop naturally if it is meant to. Forcing attraction can also distract you from recognizing compatibility. When you are focused on making a specific person interested, you might overlook whether the connection is actually healthy or mutual. Authentic interactions allow both people to evaluate how they truly feel. Sometimes the result will be mutual attraction, and sometimes it won't. Accepting this uncertainty is part of emotional maturity. It frees you to invest your energy in relationships where interest flows in both directions, rather than exhausting yourself trying to convince someone who may not be the right match. Ultimately, understanding that attraction cannot be forced encourages a healthier approach to relationships. It shifts your focus from tactics to character, from performance to presence. When you prioritize authenticity, you create space for real connection to emerge. You also protect your sense of self worth because your value is no longer tied to whether a particular person responds with interest. Instead, you measure success by how honestly and respectfully you show up. In that environment, attraction becomes less about persuasion and more about discovery. The discovery of whether two people naturally resonate with each other. And when that resonance exists, it doesn't need to be forced. It unfolds on its own. Self confidence is often mistaken for loudness, dominance, or the ability to impress others. Many people believe confidence comes from receiving praise, attention, or approval from those around them. While positive feedback can feel good, confidence that depends entirely on outside validation is fragile. The moment approval disappears or criticism appears, that kind of confidence can quickly collapse. Real self confidence is built on self respect, a steady internal sense of worth that does not rise and fall based on other people's opinions. Self respect begins with how you view and treat yourself. It involves recognizing that your thoughts, feelings, and goals matter. When you respect yourself, you make decisions that align with your values rather than constantly adjusting to please others. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or refusing to compromise. It means having a core sense of identity that guides your choices. People who act from self respect tend to appear more grounded and stable because their behavior is not driven by a constant search for approval. Relying heavily on external validation can create a cycle of insecurity. If your confidence depends on being liked, admired, or praised, you may feel pressure to perform a certain role. You might hide parts of yourself that you fear will be judged or exaggerate traits you think others will admire. Over time, this performance can become exhausting and disconnect you from your authentic self. Instead of building confidence, it often increases anxiety because you are always monitoring how you are perceived. Self respect interrupts this cycle by shifting the source of validation inward. Quote. When you evaluate yourself based on your own standards, such as effort, integrity, and personal growth, you gain a more stable foundation. You begin to measure success by how well you live according to your values rather than how much approval you receive. This internal framework makes you more resilient. Criticism becomes information you can consider thoughtfully, not a threat to your entire sense of worth. Another important aspect of self respect is setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries communicate that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. When you say no to situations that conflict with your well being or values, you reinforce your own sense of worth. People who maintain boundaries are often perceived as more confident because they demonstrate that they are not afraid to protect their needs. At the same time, healthy boundaries also foster mutual respect in relationships, creating space for more balanced and genuine connections. Developing self confidence through self respect also involves accepting imperfections. No one is flawless, and trying to appear perfect often leads to self criticism and fear of failure. Self respect allows you to acknowledge mistakes without defining yourself by them. You can view setbacks as opportunities to learn rather than proof of inadequacy. This mindset encourages growth and experimentation, both of which strengthen confidence over time. When your confidence is rooted in self respect, your interactions with others change in subtle but important ways. You are less likely to seek constant reassurance or approval. Instead, you engage with people from a place of curiosity and openness. This creates a calmer social presence. Others often feel more comfortable around someone who is secure in themselves because there is less pressure to provide validation or manage fragile emotions. Building self respect is an ongoing process. It involves reflecting on your values, practicing self care, and treating yourself with the same fairness and kindness you would offer a friend. Small daily actions, keeping commitments to yourself, pursuing meaningful goals, and speaking to yourself with compassion gradually strengthen your internal sense of worth. In the end, self confidence that grows from self respect is more durable and authentic than confidence built on external validation. It allows you to navigate relationships and challenges with greater stability. Instead of chasing approval, you carry a quiet assurance that comes from knowing and valuing yourself. That assurance not only supports your personal well being, but also makes your presence more genuine and engaging to others. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions while also being aware of and responsive to the emotions of others. It plays a powerful role in how people connect because it creates a sense of emotional safety. When someone feels emotionally safe around you, they feel accepted rather than judged, heard rather than dismissed, and understood rather than misunderstood. This sense of safety is a foundation for trust, and trust is essential for any meaningful connection. Many people underestimate how strongly emotional safety influences attraction and relationships. Conversations are not just exchanges of words, they are exchanges of emotional signals. Tone of voice, facial expressions, and reactions all communicate whether someone is safe to open up to. When you respond with patience and empathy instead of criticism or defensiveness, you send a message that the other person's feelings are valid. This validation does not mean you must agree with everything they say. It simply means you acknowledge their emotional experience as real and important. A key part of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Before you can create emotional safety for someone else, you need to understand your own emotional patterns. Everyone has triggers, situations that provoke strong reactions. If you are unaware of these triggers, you may respond impulsively or defensively in conversations. Self-awareness allows you to pause and choose your response rather than reacting automatically. This pause is powerful. It prevents small misunderstandings from escalating and helps maintain a calm, respectful environment. Another important component is emotional regulation. Feeling emotions intensely is not a weakness. Emotions are natural and informative. However, How you express them matters. Emotional regulation means managing your reactions in a way that is constructive rather than harmful. When you can express frustration, disappointment, or excitement in balanced ways, you make it easier for others to stay engaged in conversation. People tend to feel safer around someone who can handle strong emotions without becoming unpredictable or overwhelming. Empathy is at the heart of emotional intelligence. Empathy involves actively trying to understand another person's perspective and feelings. It requires listening without immediately preparing a response or judgment. When someone feels truly listened to, they experience a sense of connection that goes beyond surface level interaction. Empathy communicates respect and curiosity about the other person's inner world. This kind of attention can deepen conversations and strengthen bonds. Emotional intelligence also includes effective communication. Clear and respectful communication reduces confusion and builds trust. This means expressing your thoughts honestly while remaining considerate of the other person's feelings. Using calm language, asking clarifying questions, and checking for understanding all contribute to smoother interactions. When communication is open and respectful, misunderstandings are easier to resolve, and both people feel more secure. Creating emotional safety does not mean avoiding all conflict. Disagreements are a normal part of relationships. In fact, how people handle conflict often reveals the strength of their emotional intelligence. Approaching disagreements with curiosity instead of hostility allows both sides to feel heard. When conflict is managed respectfully, it can actually increase trust because it shows that the relationship can withstand tension without falling apart. Consistency is another factor that supports emotional safety. When your behavior is predictable and reliable, others know what to expect from you. Sudden mood swings or inconsistent reactions can make people feel uncertain and cautious. Emotional intelligence encourages steadiness, responding to situations with thoughtfulness rather than volatility. This steadiness reassures others that they can be open without fear of sudden negative reactions. Developing emotional intelligence is a lifelong process. It involves reflecting on your experiences, learning from interactions, and practicing skills like active listening and empathy. Over time, these habits become more natural. As your emotional intelligence grows, so does your ability to create environments where people feel comfortable expressing themselves. When emotional safety is present, connections deepen naturally. People are more willing to share their thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities. This openness fosters intimacy and mutual understanding. Emotional intelligence is not about being perfect or always saying the right thing. By cultivating these qualities, you create space for authentic connection, where relationships can develop with trust and ease. Respecting boundaries is one of the clearest signs of emotional maturity, yet it is often misunderstood. Some people see boundaries as barriers that prevent closeness, when in reality, they are guidelines that make healthy connection possible. Boundaries define what a person is comfortable with emotionally, mentally, and socially. When you recognize and respect these limits, you communicate that you value the other person's autonomy and individuality. That message alone can significantly influence how you are perceived, because maturity is closely tied to the ability to honor another person's comfort without taking it personally. At its core, respecting boundaries means understanding that every person has the right to their own pace and preferences. No one owes immediate openness, attention, or affection. When someone expresses hesitation or disinterest, responding with calm acceptance shows self-control and emotional strength. Many people react to boundaries with frustration or try to negotiate them away, which can create discomfort and tension. In contrast, accepting boundaries gracefully signals that you are secure enough to handle limits without becoming defensive or resentful. One reason respecting boundaries increases perceived maturity is that it requires empathy. You must consider how your actions affect another person and adjust accordingly. This perspective taking demonstrates social awareness and emotional intelligence. When people feel that their comfort is being prioritized, they are more likely to relax and engage authentically. They do not feel pressured to protect themselves or constantly monitor the interaction. That sense of ease often leads to more genuine communication. Respecting boundaries also reflects strong self-respect. It shows that you are not dependent on forcing outcomes or controlling situations. When you accept that someone else has the freedom to say no, you demonstrate confidence in your own worth. You are not trying to override their preferences to validate yourself. This balance between respecting others and valuing yourself is a hallmark of emotional maturity. It suggests that you can participate in relationships as an equal rather than from a place of insecurity. Another important aspect of boundaries is timing. Healthy relationships develop gradually, and pushing for rapid intimacy can feel intrusive. When you allow space for connection to unfold naturally, you show patience and awareness. This patience communicates that you are interested in building something meaningful rather than rushing toward a specific goal. People often interpret this measured approach as a sign of thoughtfulness and stability. Respecting boundaries also reduces the likelihood of misunderstandings and conflict. When limits are acknowledged early and honored consistently, expectations become clearer. Both people know where they stand, which minimizes confusion and resentment. This clarity creates a foundation of trust. Trust grows when actions consistently align with respect, and trust is essential for any lasting connection. It is equally important to recognize that boundaries are not static. They can change over time as comfort and trust evolve. Emotional maturity involves staying attentive to these shifts and remaining open to communication. Asking for consent, checking in about comfort levels, and being receptive to feedback all reinforce the message that the other person's well-being matters. This ongoing dialogue strengthens relationships by fostering transparency and mutual respect. Handling rejection is closely connected to boundary respect. When someone is not interested or sets a firm limit, mature behavior involves accepting their decision without argument or pressure. Rejection can be disappointing, but responding with dignity preserves both your self-respect and the other person's sense of safety. It shows that you can separate your feelings from their choices. This ability to manage disappointment without hostility is a strong indicator of emotional resilience. Respecting boundaries ultimately benefits both sides. It creates an environment where people feel safe to express themselves honestly. When individuals trust that their limits will be honored, they are more willing to communicate openly. This openness encourages healthier and more balanced interactions. Relationships built on mutual respect tend to be more stable because they are grounded in understanding rather than coercion. Developing the habit of respecting boundaries requires mindfulness and practice. It involves listening carefully, observing nonverbal cues, and being willing to step back when necessary. Over time, these behaviors become natural expressions of maturity. By consistently honoring boundaries, you demonstrate that you value autonomy, empathy, and respect. These qualities not only enhance how others perceive you, but also contribute to stronger, more authentic connections.